So recently, Bill Maher interviewed a politician and asked him if he believed the Bible, and the politician said yes. And then he wrenched two verses out of context that seem to indicate the Bible condoned rape and the Bible condoned slavery. Now, the politician, not being a trained theologian or pastor and wasn't really prepared for this, gave a weak answer, kind of looked stupid, okay? So I'm going to give you those verses that he wrenched out of context, and then I'm going to give you the response that Christians have been given for 2,000 years. I mean, it wouldn't be very hard for Bill Maher to look up what the other side says about these, but he's not making an honest attempt. He just wants to make religious people look foolish. So we're just going to give you the verses right off the bat. First one is for rape. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verses 28, 29. So that was written about 5,000 years ago. If a man comes upon a young woman, a virgin who is not betrothed, seizes her and lies with her, and they are discovered, the man who lay with her shall give the young woman's father 50 silver shekels, and she will be his wife, because he has violated her. He may not divorce her as long as he lives. So yeah, that sounds like, wow, that's brutal. But again, context is everything. And the critics of the Bible would say, well, in what context is rape ever okay? It's never okay in no context. What I'm saying by taking it out of context is you're making it say something it's not saying. I mean, you could read that Judas Iscariot hung himself after he betrayed Jesus. It doesn't mean the Bible condones hanging yourself. Come on. So why would that be in the Bible, that your rapist has to marry you and pay your dad 50 shekels? Okay? You got to look at the culture. 5,000 years ago in the Middle East, okay? No one would marry a woman if she wasn't a virgin. And women weren't allowed to work back then. So if a woman wasn't married, once her father died, she had no way to survive, no way to eat. She would starve to get death. In fact, widows had it worse, had it the worst in those days. They would starve. That's why in the New Testament, the apostles commanded the church to take care of widows. So a young woman that was never married, her life was done. So he's telling this rapist, you got to take care of her. He's not saying you could have sex with her. He's just saying you got to take care of her financially, basically. That was the arrangement. It was actually an act of mercy by God. But what does God really think of rape? Well, if Bill Maher would have just took the whole verse in context and went a couple verses higher, he would have found out. Verses 25 through 27. But if it is in the open fields that a man comes upon the betrothed young woman, seizes her and lies with her, only the man who lay with her shall die. You shall do nothing to the young woman, since the young woman is not guilty of a capital offense. And when a man rises up against his neighbor and murders him, so in this case, it was in the open fields that he came upon her, and through the betrothed young woman may have cried out, there was no one to save her. So and that's a betrothed young woman, meaning married. The other one was unbetrothed, unmarried. So the death penalty is what was given to someone who raped a married woman, because she had someone to take care of her. So God doesn't condone rape if he's giving capital punishment to the rapist. And in that culture, 5,000 years ago, in the Middle East, if a woman was raped, she was killed. She was killed. They didn't take her word for it. Not only are they taking her word, they're saying if she's in open field and no one even heard her, we're going to assume she cried out for help. In Egypt, what they would do to a woman who said she was raped, they would throw her in the river. In a river, a big river, that no one could survive. And they said, well, if she lived, she was innocent. If she drowned, she's guilty. That was the punishment in the Middle East. So when we say context, when Christians say you got to take it in context, that's what we're talking about. Nowhere in it does it say rape is okay. But Bill Maher has, you know, he's a funny guy, I admit. He's got a good personality and he has a big audience. He can just wrench one verse out of context and make it seem like the Bible condones rape, which obviously doesn't. Now, slavery. We'll go to the New Testament. Colossians chapter 3, verse 22. Slaves, obey your human masters in everything. Not only when being watched as currying favor, but in simplicity of heart, fearing the Lord. So, wow. Slaves, obey your masters. He's not saying slavery is good. Again, God gave man free will. And man set up things this way, nowhere in there he's saying is slavery good. And you got to look at the context. Paul is writing this letter from jail. So Paul is basically enslaved. Paul's in chains and shackles writing this letter. So he has no power. It's not like he has any power over the Romans that got these people in jail or got these people enslaved. And he knew from history just a few hundred years earlier, the slave Spartacus rose up against the Romans and they crucified over 1,000 slaves in one day. So Paul is looking out for the church. Paul calls himself the spiritual father of the church in many places. He calls the church his spiritual children. So he's giving fatherly advice, just common sense advice. Slaves, obey your masters, and, make the best of it. Fear the Lord, And then he goes on about trusting God and all that. But the context of that is just common sense. If you rise up against your masters, they're going to kill you. He didn't want to see any of his children killed. So basically, that's it. So good try, Bill Maher, but you're wrong. You're a funny guy. I disagree with you, but, you are a funny guy. And I believe one day you're going to come see the light and you're going to be on this side. God bless. Bye.